What's up and welcome back to Cryptographics. Today, we're going to go over where Hex's supply inflation indeed comes from. So before we dive into this though, let's look at Bitcoin. Is Bitcoin an inflationary coin? Yes. Until around the year 2140. The year 2140 is when the last block reward will be able to be mined. So until then, Bitcoin has an inflationary supply. In the first few years of Bitcoin's existence, Bitcoin's inflation was astronomically high in comparison to what it is today. But how is there inflation at all? Inflation simply comes from the design of Bitcoin itself. It is paid to miners as a reward for upholding the network and doing the work it takes to solve the cryptographic puzzle and validate blocks. The first Bitcoin halving occurred on November 28, 2012, after a total of 10.5 million BTC or Bitcoin had been mined. The next occurred on July 9th, 2016, and the latest was on May 11th, 2020. The next is expected to occur in early 2024, as per Investopedia.com. The rewards were pre-programmed into the code to be paid to miners. This means the supply of Bitcoin will inflate over time until it reaches its maximum supply of 21 million, at which time there will be a capped supply. The final rewards, or inflation, will be rewarded somewhere around the year 2140, approximately. To really round off what is happening under the hood, Bitcoin's supply inflates over time, which happens by miners validating blocks and earning BTC, or Bitcoin, as a reward. Miners then have to pay for their power costs, which means that in some cases, miners may have to sell these rewards in order to pay for the ever-increasing cost of validating blocks. This means that miners are incentivized to hurt the price of Bitcoin. So, the inflation gets paid to users who may need to sell it to pay for the cost of earning those rewards. But let's look at Hex now. Where does Hex's inflation come from? Like Bitcoin, Hex's inflation comes from the code. Hex is immutable and cannot be altered by anyone for the benefit of anyone, ever. Every year, the Hex supply inflates by 3.69% to those who stake their Hex. More on that later. No matter if there's one user who stakes or 1 million users who stake their Hex, the supply will inflate and be paid to those who stake. Like how miners are paid rewards in BTC for validating the network, Hex stakers are paid daily rewards for promising not to sell their tokens for a given period between 1 and 5,555 days, or 15.2 years. Staking is the promise to the Hex code. Once staked, users will be paid a certain amount of the total inflation based on 3 parameters: how many Hex they stake, how long the stake is for, and the percentage of total Hex staked of the total supply. Once Hex is staked, it is given a T-share value that determines how much you and I get daily. Currently, the daily payout for one of these shares is around 6.2 Hex per day. And this will fluctuate over time, of course. How did the system get this number though? The cost of staking for one of these shares, or T-shares, goes up over time in a similar way to how Bitcoin's rewards are halved over time. As stakes end, the amount of Hex it takes in order to stake for a T-share goes up, meaning it's also harder to earn the rewards of a T-share. In the beginning of Hex, so when Hex first started, it only cost 10,000 Hex to get paid whatever the daily payout was at the time. Currently, due to many stakes having ended, the share price now costs 22,771 Hex and counting. While I may do a more comprehensive guide on the T-share later, I will just quickly summarize what it is, very, very generally. The T-share is a mechanism that only is activated at the time of staking and is used to determine how much of the total daily Hex inflation you will get. It does not exist, and you can't technically buy one. It's kind of like having a share in a company that expires after a specified number of days which you have determined and pays dividends over that period, roughly. Now let's talk about how the system calculates inflation payouts. If 100% of the Hex supply is staked, then the average payout for an average length stake would be 3.69% APY. If only 10% of the total Hex supply is staked, then the average payout would be roughly 36.9% APY. See how this is kind of working here? If you stake for longer or shorter than whatever the average stake length is, you will get more or less APY based on the difference in stake length. Longer will pay more APY, shorter pays less APY. Currently, only 9.416% of the total Hex supply is staked as per Hex.vision. So the payout on average should theoretically be higher than 36.9%. I hope you're now starting to see how the system works and understand that Hex is quite like Bitcoin, but pays rewards to stakers versus miners and inflates in a static percentage instead of decreasing over time like Bitcoin does. Of course, this is all very general. So is Hex a scam because it pays out 37% plus APY or more? Nope. You just need to understand the code and what is going on under the hood. Hex has many similarities to Bitcoin and was designed to have improved mechanics above and beyond what Bitcoin is. So thank you so much for watching. I hope you learned something and I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, smash that like and subscribe button and drop me a comment below to let me know what you thought. And if you'd like to support the channel, you can go to cryptographics.com and either purchase some merch or book a one-on-one call. You can also join the YouTube memberships, and you can donate if you so choose as well. And finally, guys, there's scammers in the comments. Don't engage with them. If it's not my highlighted cryptographics name bar, it's not me talking to you, and I'll never ask you to go to WhatsApp or anything else at all. If you have questions, go to cryptographics.com and shoot me an email there. So again, thank you so much for watching, and I will catch you in the next one very soon. Peace.